Hey folks, it's Jared Mannanen from the website TahoeTrailGuide.com. Today I'm going to talk about cross-country ski poles for use with cross-country skiing in the backcountry, off-trail, and off-track. As you might imagine, I have a lot of different cross-country ski poles, but I have a really simple method that I use to determine what type of ski poles that I'm going to be using when I cross-country ski in the backcountry or off-trail. And that litmus test that I use, or that little benchmark, is whether or not the snow is going to be firm. So, for example, if there's less than, say, 4 inches of fresh snow over a firm base of snow, I'm just going to use a fixed length cross-country ski pole made of aluminum with a basket that's slightly wider than what I would use on a set of cross-country ski poles for use at a groomed resort or track skiing. If the snow is deeper than 4 to 6 inches, I'm going to use a collapsible set of aluminum ski poles that have a wide basket on them. The reason this is my litmus test is based on technique. So if you're unfamiliar with the correct length of a cross-country ski pole, the general formula is that you take your height in centimeters and multiply that by 83%, or 0.83. That'll give you the correct length for a cross-country ski pole for use with classic cross-country skiing. And what that'll do is that'll put the strap, as it comes out of the ski pole grip, somewhere between the armpit and the top of the shoulder. So this 140 set of cross-country ski poles is the correct length for me when I'm classic skiing or diagonal striding. The reason I want to use the correct length of cross-country ski pole even when I'm cross-country skiing in the backcountry is because I still want to do correct cross-country ski technique. So having the right tools for that job is paramount. But if you're new to cross-country skiing and you get handed those cross-country ski poles for the first time and you think, holy cow, these are long. They are long. And that's specifically so that they can be used for an extra means of propulsion, not just balance. So they're like 99% for propulsion and maybe 1% to help you with your balance. That said, if we're using those poles correctly, we're going to be holding them at an angle as if our hand had just tossed a cup of water in front of us. So it makes this angle behind us, right? So that the ski pole can go into the snow and then we can push off from it in this direction. We want to always land our ski pole tips at or behind our feet. And the reason for that is, again, if we're using these as a means of propulsion, the more angle upwards, like if it was in front of us, if we landed that ski pole in front of us, the energy we're going to be pushing on is going to be pushing straight up. We want to go forward, so we angle that ski pole back so that we can push off of it in that forward motion. Obviously, we're not pushing off like this. It would just skitter across the snow. But we have this angle that enables that ski pole tip to dig into the snow and let us push off. So I will use this one in the backcountry if at all possible. Now, again, if you're unfamiliar with a cross-country ski pole, let me just go over it real quick. The basket is going to be off of the snow. There is no basket that's on the snow side, and then the tip is actually pointing downwards. There's a slight angle pointing downwards so that it bites into the snow and you can push off. Okay, so we're thinking about having that correct angle of our ski pole, right? Well, imagine if we were on a firm surface of snow and we had a full basket on these cross-country ski poles. I'm just going to turn this pole over for illustrative purposes, simulating that there was a basket that went all the way around. On that firm snow, there's a good chance that you're going to actually meet the snow with the basket well before the tip ever gets to the snow, and then it's just going to skid off. Also note that if you're taller than me, which I'm sure many of you are, and you use a classic cross-country ski pole length that's more than 140, most collapsible ski poles that you get for backcountry use tend to stop at 145. So here's the thing with technique. Say you're 6'2" and you end up using like a 155 cross-country ski pole for classic skiing. Because the ski pole is shorter now, your angle is going to go more from here into this position, and again pushing in the wrong direction, right, when we're pushing off in diagonal stride. So it just alters your technique, and that's fine in a lot of conditions where the snow is soft. You're always going to be modifying your technique no matter what. And a lot of times when it's really deep snow, I have to collapse my other set of cross-country ski poles down to like 125 to 130 because I'm just dragging the ski poles. So that's, again, I wouldn't use these in snow deeper than say 4 inches. I would use those collapsible ones so that I can at least pull them out of the snow a little bit easier to use. But if you only have one set of cross-country ski poles and they happen to be a collapsible variety, and you're finding yourself skiing in really firm conditions consistently, your technique is going to suffer a little bit because they're going to probably be a little bit short for you, and then they're also going to have that full basket, which means you have to, in some respects, bring it to a more vertical position when poling. Otherwise, again, you're going to skid that basket over the snow, and that's super irritating. I've tried it a couple of times and said never again, so whenever possible I'll use these fixed length poles. Another thing to consider is that aluminum, in my opinion, is the best. It's also the least expensive and most durable. If you find yourself, for whatever reason, falling hard and landing on your pole, even if this thing bends, you can generally bend it back. With a carbon fiber, a composite ski pole, for use in the backcountry, you break that and it shatters. It's pretty much unusable. And unless you have a roll of duct tape or some sort of other tape, medical tape, and can tie those ends off or tape those ends off, you're gonna end up with like a splinter nightmare poking out of your backpack or whatever. So I prefer to use just a basic, inexpensive metal pole. These off-track poles that I use are like 40 bucks. It's super affordable. Some of the characteristics I look for when purchasing backcountry ski poles that are collapsible is that they're aluminum, that they only have 2 sections, and that there's only one joint or one locking mechanism, and that it's an external locking mechanism. I don't like internal barrel adjustment mechanisms for use in the winter, although I do have some hiking poles that I've had for many years that have that barrel adjustment and have 3 sections. Those 2 elements turn me off as far as using them in a winter environment. The internal barrel adjustments require you to have a good solid grip on your ski or on the poles or the trekking poles so that you can twist and tighten. If your hands are numb or there's ice or snow trapped in there, you may find it really challenging to get them to either tighten down so that they won't keep collapsing on you, or undoing because it's too short or too long. So that external locking mechanism is a lot easier to use. You know, you can just use the edge of your thumb, an edge of, you know, a buckle on your jacket or something like that, or your belt, your hip belt, and you can unlock it and then just push that piece up against your body or a firm surface to lock it back down. So you don't necessarily need perfectly warm hands like you would with that internal barrel adjustment. Generally speaking, poles that you would use in the summer tend to have 3 sections, and that's so you can collapse them down and stick them in your backpack. Whereas a pole more designed for skiing, you're seldom gonna put that anywhere other than in your hands. So they generally only collapse down to a moderate length, not a short length, because of the fact that there are only 2 sections. But with the 3 sections, you can collapse them down pretty small. But again, you have 3 sections and 2 joints, which can potentially break instead of 1 joint. So that's why I prefer getting a dedicated set of backcountry ski poles rather than using my hiking poles and trying to perform double duty with that. There's other really nice collapsible backcountry ski poles that will have some type of a half basket on them, but what I find that with that locking mechanism and with the way that the basket spins, half the time I end up using the big side in the snow anyway. It's really frustrating for whatever reason. They just don't want to stay in place so that the bigger part of the basket is upright. So I tend to not use those a whole lot. Another durability factor when it comes to aluminum, and a reason I prefer aluminum over a composite or a carbon fiber, is that if I do have to use it as an anchor of some sort, whether that's to push me up or pull me up, I feel way more confident with aluminum than one of those other materials and putting a lot of pressure on it. So again, if this thing bends, it's relatively easy to bend it back. And yes, these can break, they definitely can break, but I've seen these take a lot more punishment consistently versus a carbon fiber or a composite pole. Okay folks, that's all I got. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Post any feedback or questions in the comment section below. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out TahoeTrailGuide.com, specifically for the section about classic cross-country ski poles and their correct length. That's a good resource if you're new to cross-country skiing and want to know more about cross-country ski poles. I also have a Patreon account and a PayPal.me if you feel compelled or interested in contributing in a financial way to the health and longevity of Tahoe Trail Guide and this YouTube channel. All your support is very much appreciated. Okay folks, I'm going to get back on the trail here and go for a little ski. Take care everyone.